Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In this video I'd like to look at our VSA or volume spike analysis setup using the MT add-ons or the MTRT add-ons for NinjaTrader 7. So I'd like to go through the criteria we look for and how we set this up in the NinjaTrader add-ons. Right, our VSA indicator is on our volume plot, which is the bottom here. So what are we looking for? Well, first of all, we're looking to identify, I'm not using these automatic setups here. This is a total manual trade setup that we're going to do with the tools manually. So what I'm looking for is I'm basically looking for, if I put a sort of a line through here, I'm basically looking for the market to go below what is an otherwise an important sort of pivot. So here we can see there was a low made at this point, so I'm now looking for the market to go through this pivot through this point here, and as you can see this is what it did on this bar here. So we had a wide range bar that went through this low, making new lows. Our high volume VSA indicator gave us a red plot here, and that told us that this is a bar to look at and we should be interested in. Now, normal conventional technical analysis will tell you that if a market makes a break of a prior important pivot like we had here, then if the volume is increasing, then this means that more sellers are entering the market and the market's going to continue down. So normally this is a standard technical analysis sort of sell setup in that a market has breached a prior high or low. However, what we do with MTPredictor is we look at the next bar, and as you can see here, the next bar failed to follow through. In other words, it stopped going down, went sideways, and actually gave us a blue buy setup bar. So the question being is, if this volume on this first bar was truly selling, then the market should have continued lower. So what's actually going on? Well, actually what's happening is that this selling in this bar here is not actually selling, it's actually professional buying. So the professionals are buying and the amateurs are selling. So in other words, it's a good fake out by professional traders. In other words, they are taking long positions here as the amateur traders are selling to the professionals. So what do we do here? Do we just look at this here as it is? Well, no, we have an added tool in MTPredictor that we can use to help us on this particular setup. So if I go back a couple of bars, or go back to here, what we can do is we can put our decision point on from the prior pivot, and that's here. So if I just extend that out using the triangle the rectangle tool, so that's our decision point, and that means that's an area of support that's projected in advance. So if we now go forward a bar, we can see what's actually happened is that this wide range bar has then stopped at our decision point support. Professional buying has now entered the market and actually turned this round and gave us a blue buy setup bar. So this actually constitutes our basic VSA setup, where we have a wide range bar like this that goes beyond an important high or low, has our VSA indicator on it there. Then what we do is look for the very next bar to then come into a trade, as long as it reverses back like this. And also the important point is it gives us support, in this case at our DP, or as we'll see in a minute, resistance. Now comes the important part, and this is the part that many other VSA techniques miss, is that we need a target. So if I do right mouse click here and I put our decision point in from our prior pivot, in other words this is the last swing down, this would be our target. We also have to use correct position sizing to make sure that if this trade setup goes wrong, and they will go wrong sometimes, the loss is kept small, but when they go right the profit's large. So for this we use our risk reward tool, and basically just 3 simple clicks at our levels, and instantly you can see that we have a potential long trade if the high of this bar is exceeded. Our position sizing tells us we can trade 2 contracts for a 2% risk of a sample $20,000 account. That keeps our risk, or 20,000 euro account I should say, because we're trading the DAX here. This keeps our risk small and under control. Also gives us our stop trigger level that we come out if our trade's wrong. But more importantly, we have a potential profit of 5.8R In other words, approximately 5.8 times the initial risk. So if this trade is correct and the market moves up here, the profit at 1,800 euros will be approximately 5.8 times greater than the loss, and that, or the initial risk, and that is the important part to trading and keeps the position sizing under control. If I move forward, you can see the trade does indeed actually unfold beautifully, whereas this actually nailed the low perfectly, and as you can see the market moved higher. And this is what happens very often when you get a VSA setup like this. It's because the professionals are coming in on this high volume bar and actually buying. In other words, they're going the opposite side to what the amateurs think, and normally when that happens you get a very sharp move in the opposite direction as the amateurs struggle to get out of their losing positions and the professionals say thank you very much and basically increase their profits. So this is what normally happens on this setup. You get a very strong move off that. So that's a very good example of our VSA setup. Does it work all the time? Well, let's have a little look. Because if I now say the exact reverse, a bit higher up here, here the market, so I'll go back a couple of bars, here the market here made a run to new highs. Again we have our VSA setup. If I come back to here and I put our decision point on, and I'll now just bring that back a bit with the rectangle tool in NinjaTrader, we have exactly the opposite setup where we have a wide range bar on a high volume VSA into a resistance area. The very next bar makes a red sell bar and drops back down again. So in this case our target would now be down here off this low pivot. Let's put our risk reward on, and here we're setting up exactly the same trade but in the opposite direction, potential 6.1R. So let's see how this trade unfolded. It took you in short, looking good so far. However, the market went back and actually stopped you out. And this is a good example here in that in all trading there will always be losses, but the point being is that when this particular setup went wrong, correct position sizing here, again in this example it was to do one contract, remember we had to do two before, kept the position sizing small and under control. So here the trade was a 1R loss, and if we can remember when we had this prior trade up into this level, it was actually a it was actually off there, wasn't it? Sorry, it was off that high, wasn't it? So it was slightly lower than that. So I'll just redo the risk reward. It was actually into there, wasn't it? About 5.7, 5.8R. So the prior trade actually made us plus 5.7, 5.8R. And that is the key to all this, in that position sizing, correct position sizing, allows us to maximize my profits when the trade setup is correct, but keep our losses small and under control when the trade setup is incorrect and the market moves against us. And that's the key to successful trading. Keep your losses small and your profit large. So I hope this has been a good video in that it's actually showing you what our VSA setup is in MTPredictor. So again, just to run through very quickly, we are looking for a just put the decision point here on. We are looking for a market that makes a run beyond an important prior pivot. In other words, you should be able to identify an important prior pivot. It makes a run beyond that. It goes into our DP support or resistance zone, has a high volume VSA setup. The next bar it fails to follow through. We then use the opposing decision point for our trade setup. We then use our position sizing and our risk reward tool to then get our trade set up in and around that, and that is the basis for our high volume VSA setup. And as we've already seen, very often it will give you a very good trade as the professionals move the market in the opposite direction very strongly. So a good example of one of the manual tools, or the manual more advanced tools that we can do in the MTPredictor software program.